Evening. Let's explore a hack for the I Am Affirmations. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you are looking for. This evening, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Luke Skywalker on Dagobah under the guidance of Yoda, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy or even chanting, there is no need to be bashful. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. So, amongst those who are keen to spiritually evolve, there is a very popular non-Buddhist practice of the quote-unquote I Am meditations. When it comes to sheer enthusiasm, a lot of people practice it, but is it productive? Well, actually, it's not meditation. It is affirmation. What then? What's the difference? An affirmation is something you say very enthusiastically with the utmost of certitude, hoping it will become true. It's a lie you tell yourself with great enthusiasm. It's what some people call magical thinking, and you will not find any neuroscientist worth his salt standing behind it and saying, yes, the fMRI tests show this will make you more loving. No, it won't. Then what is meditation? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, quick like a bunny, I'm going to hit button 7. So, behold the cross-section of the brain. Now, if I'm really clever, I'll be able to access word and point things to you. So most of us live, well, this bit here is the amygdala. It is the fear center. And fear is the engine that drives our worst selves. This bit right here, that kind of looks like the letter C, this bit right here is the anterior cingulate gyrus, which in addition to being a winning answer in Scrabble, is the seat of empathy. So, merely stating an affirmation, merely concentrating, is not going to shift, it's not going to necessarily light up your anterior cingulate gyrus. If anything, rigidity and controlling tendencies tend to light up our underbrain. Don't know why, it's just a consistently observable phenomena. Trying to will something to happen is the complete opposite of being laid back. Just as rigidity is the complete opposite of being flexible. So, well, it's like what Robin Williams said, God gave man 2 heads, but only enough blood to use one at a time. Similarly, we can be empathetic, or we can be frightened and aggressive, but not at the same time. It's like a toggle switch. So, if fear is the key to aggression, and it is antithetical to empathy, then the key to empathy is sedating our fear. Yes? And of course, the great irony is that almost 2,000 years ago, a Jewish mystic wrote, perfect love drives out fear. So both philosophically as well as scientifically, we see an adversarial relationship between anxiety and aggression versus empathy and being a wonderful human being. Now, I'm going to click button number 4 and subject you to my face. Okay. So now we have our goal and agenda. Our goal is to sedate our anxiety and aggression, and our agenda is so that the blood mass has a fighting chance to make it to our empathy center. Now, by the way, as fully functional mammals who do not suffer from some catastrophic brain damage or birth defect, we are wired to be empathetic as our modus operandi, provided that our neurological activity is not hijacked by fear and aggression. So the cool thing is, just by sedating fear and aggression guarantees empathy, compassion, and love will prevail. Fabulous. How do we do that? Glad you asked. Contemporary neuroscience teaches us that with every inhalation, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which evolved to perceive not only sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, and scents, but also emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Now, here's the cool part. The manner in which we evolved to perceive them is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. A funny thing happens when we concentrate. We go from peripheral vision down to tunnel vision. The fancy word for that is foveal vision. Now, foveal vision is going to make us really antsy and aggressive. And it's also going to undermine our perceptual acuity, which runs counter to evolution's survival imperative. Therefore, it should not come as a great surprise that our fundamental programming is not only not to concentrate, but to notice in peripheral vision with our senses wide. When someone is startled, what's the first thing they do? They open wide their eyes and they shift, as if to break the spell of their concentration. So when someone's startled and they go into a survival mode, they're in peripheral vision and they're trying to open wide their doors of perception. See? Sabe? Now, every time we exhale, we shift from our sympathetic nervous system to our parasympathetic nervous system. And it evolved to aid us in our physical relaxation and our mental and emotional release, which is the opposite. You cannot be anxious and relaxed at the same time. Impossible. You cannot be aggressive and relaxed at the same time. Different circuits. So, if we want to access our neurological birthright of empathy, the key is not concentration, but the meditation of passive awareness and relaxation. That is the key. But, you might ask, what happens when I'm sitting there, breathing, and noticing, and relaxing, and all of a sudden, up comes a memory or a fantasy or a confabulation of the two that fills me with fear or aggression, or both. Simple. As you breathe in, notice it. As you breathe out, relax. If that tears you out of your mellow state and into an active state, then work with the 4 contemplations we will explore in just a few minutes. Playing with those 4 contemplations, will give a very positive outlet for that neurological energy. So instead of going into our neurotic patterns, feeding our circular reasoning of aggression and anxiety, it can go into new thoughts that can help free us from the treadmill of neurosis and aggression. And then when you feel your energy wane and you feel mellow again, we go back to meditation. And so now we understand the play of contemplation and meditation. And we choose one or the other based on which mode we tend to be. We don't choose the mode. We notice the mode and figure out how to best benefit from it. How do we benefit from neurological energy? Contemplation. How do we benefit from neurological mellowness? Meditation. It's just that simple. I guarantee if you spend 1 month enthusiastically practicing the I am affirmations, and then you spend your 2nd month after that contemplating and meditating in the way that we will practice in just a few minutes from now, you'll see when you contrast the results you garner from your 1st month and the results you garner from your 2nd month, you'll be the difference between the two will be like contrasting moonlight with sunlight at high noon. But don't take my word for it. Put it to the test in the laboratory of your body and mind. Before we start practicing, let's take 1 minute for housekeeping. Every day, I live stream 4 meditation classes without any advertisements, health permitting. With your assistance, this channel could come to help support the next generation of nuns, monks, yogis, lamas, and even brick-and-mortar meditation centers, each replete with a resident teacher and their apprentice. If you think that's a good idea, and you'd like to help out, even for as little as the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month, simply use your smartphone's camera to capture this QR code. Or if you're old school, scroll down to the description area below the video and click one of the donation links. Now it's time for the Easter Bunny. Whoops, I left my beverage on the other side of the room. Oh, if I only had Jedi powers. That would really come in handy right now. Un momento. Let's see. Well, in the name of full disclosure, oopsie, wrong button. Sorry, kids. All right, and away we go. Let us practice a variation of bliss work that is known by many names, including Bindu Mahamudra or Dzogchen tikle. It's very simple. Press your hands together in front of your chest while chanting the Heart Sutra. And if you're perceptive, you'll notice sensations that feel like your subtle energy is coalescing within your central channel at the level of your heart. This is a wonderful preparatory practice, or ngondro, for meditation. While practicing the deep practice of Prajnaparamita, Avalokiteshvara is an archetype of enlightened compassion. Prajna means wisdom, paramita means perfection. So what follows is going to be tips for us to perfect our practice of wisdom, of enlightening wisdom, or liberating wisdom. Looked upon the five skandhas and seeing they were empty of self-existence. The five skandhas are just one of many different ways of organizing our mental experience. The real question is, what's this empty business? Glad you asked. If we spoke previously of the dangers of being rigid. Well, if we approach emptiness with rigidity, we'll take it literally and wind up either in pseudo-intellectual skullduggery or the trap of superstitious blind faith. However, if we take a flexible approach to this practice, we'll be open to the possibility that emptiness could be figurative. So let us explore it from that premise. With each exhalation, we could relax, and as we do, that which we noticed during our previous inhalation can now be easier to let go of. It could, and figuratively, it could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the expanse of the infinite azure sky overhead on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. Let's continue. Said Hirshari Putra, form is emptiness is form. Form is not separate from emptiness is not separate from form is not separate from emptiness. Whatever is form is emptiness, whatever is emptiness is form. So Shariputra is just a proper noun. That's just someone's name. The same holds for sensation, perception, memory, and consciousness. There are many ways of translating the five skandhas into English. My favorite is coined by the Padmakara group as form, feeling, appraisal, impulse, awareness. Hishari Mundra, all dharmas are defined by emptiness, not by birth or destruction, purity or defilement, incompleteness or deficiency. What does that mean? It means if we want to become trapped or further trapped in the tyranny and slavery to our survival impulses, then by all means we should define our present moment experience by the apparent adjectives before us. However, if we want liberation from the tyranny of our survival drives, the same drives that, although might be excellent if we're trying to outrun a bear through the woods, are dreadful if we're trying to maintain meaningful relationships at work or neighborhood, platonic and intimate. Then, rather than defining our circumstances by our adjectives, we define our circumstances by two things. That when we breathe in, we can notice them, and that when we exhale, we can release them, at least to a certain degree. And that is what we call awareness and release. That is the key to enlightenment. Let's continue. If you've just joined me, by the way, oopsie, gotta be fancy here. If you just joined me, welcome aboard. When you have a question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or even chanting, there is no need to be bashful. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Tally ho. Therefore, Shari Mundra and emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, no perception, no memory, no consciousness. Now, we just introduced a new thing. We're already played with emptiness, so we're comfortable with that. But now there's just a whole swarm of no's like angry wasps stinging us in the tuchus. What does that mean? Are you supposed to say that nothing exists and everything is a literal illusions and we are but brains and flasks full of chemicals from a 1950s sci-fi movie? No, no, and oh hell no. These no's are just a figurative way of saying there is no form that once noticed cannot be released. There is no sensation that once we notice it during our inhalation, we can't release during our exhalation. So in other words, every time we say no, we're being taught that everything we notice, we can release. Isn't that fun? Let's continue. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, and no mind. No shape, no sound, no smell, no taste, no feeling, and no thought. No element of perceptions from mind to conceptual consciousness. No causal link from consciousness to old age and death. No end of causal link from consciousness to old age and death. So the 12 links of interdependency are just like the 5 aggregates, just one of many systems of organizing our present moment experience. Now, some people are literal-minded and they're controlling and they're rigid and they try to memorize these great lists of things. And while it might make them masters of trivia, it will not free them from the tyranny of the 3 mental poisons. So, basically, we're just really developing a head of steam. And we're just looking at all these different areas that, when brought into the path of enlightenment, free us as long as we remember 2 things: to notice and release. Fortunately, and this is the cool thing, we don't have to force those things. They are our birthright of evolution. We evolved to practice spontaneously notice during each inhalation. We evolved to physically relax and mentally release during each exhalation. Well, why then meditate? So that because we, as really complex primates who are terribly mangy, we often forget that because our brains are so uber complex. These factory-installed programs are often lost and forgotten. We meditate to align our intention, our volition, if you will, with our factory-installed programming. Let's continue. No suffering, no source, no relief, no path, no knowledge, no attainment, and no non-attainment. You might say, hey, one minute here, these are the 4 Noble Truths. Are you saying that the 4 Noble Truths are incorrect? Heresy! No. King of the Gungans can go sit down. No. What we're saying is, whatever you notice, there is no suffering that you can notice that can't be released. There is no source of suffering that once noticed cannot be released. That is a reoccurring theme. Or to reference the Beatles, there's nothing you can think that can't be thought. Let's continue. Therefore, Shani Mundra without attainment, Bodhisattvas take refuge in Prajnaparamita and live without the wall of the mind. Now, this is cool. Not only was it a kick-ass album by Pink Floyd, but it reminds us of Bodhidharma's mind-gazing meditation. There's a beautiful painting of Bodhidharma that shows him sitting in the woods without a wall. Because wall gazing is a metaphor for gazing at the wall-like experience of our grasping. And just as the antidote to a wall is a sledgehammer, the antidote to our grasping is release. We access that release through meditation, through the mindfulness and meditation of inhalation and exhalation. Let's continue. Without walls of the mind and thus without fears, they see through delusions and finally accomplish nirvana. So, does that mean people are incapable of feeling fear? No. They notice fear and they release fear. So they are without the tyranny of fear. They're not without the presence of fear. They're without the tyranny of fear. If you've just joined me, welcome aboard. When you have a question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy or chanting, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let's continue. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, also take refuge in Prajnaparamita and realize unexcelled perfect enlightenment. So, what's the key to liberation from the tyranny of hating and craving and grasping that just destroy our relationships? The twofold practice of noticing and releasing, mindfulness and meditation, that are already correlated with our inhalation and our exhalation. If I only had pom-poms. You should therefore know the great mantra Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great magic, the unexhaled mantra. So this concise sutra is rich in figurative language, and this portion is no different. So the inference is that the practice with the perfection of mindfulness and meditation is so effective, it's like a super duper awesome, super spectacular mantra of cinematic proportions. Let's continue. The mantra equal to the unequaled, which heals all suffering and is true, not false. The mantra in Prajnaparamita is spoken thus. Gate gate para sangate buddhi swaha. May I so practice and thus master mindfulness and meditation that we go completely and perfectly go to enlightenment. Then, my friends, we must ask, what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is, if being a bodhisattva means we are enthusiastically traversing the Eightfold Path, then being a Buddha simply means we have mastered that path. What does that mean? Well, remember when you were a kid and you were trying to ride a bicycle? And I don't know about you, maybe you were brave. I wasn't. I was horrified. I was convinced I was going to plummet 24 inches to my doom. That I was going to die. And then eventually, after the hysterics, I learned to ride really wobbly with my tongue sticking out of my mouth and the utmost of concentration. And then eventually I was able to ride effortlessly, without giving it a moment's thought. Similarly, when we have so mastered the Eightfold Path that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively, we're still humans. We still experience the full spectrum of human emotions, but we bring them into the path. Then we're Buddhas. The first thing we're going to do is play with the physical aspect of meditation. I found that once you get the physical momentum going, the mental counterparts are child's play. Not to be confused with the movie that introduced us to Chucky. So, first things first. You want to sit down. So I'm going to mercilessly subject you to Jumbo Cam. Dun, dun, dun. Welcome to Jumbo Cam. So I'm going to adjust the camera, and you can see I'm sitting on a blanket. This is just a yoga blanket. You can get it for like $20 on Amazon. No big deal. I don't have an Amazon store. I profit zero from this advice. And I'm a pawn, so this blanket is great for your ankles. It's very comfortable to rest your ankles on a blanket. It's not comfortable to rest your ankles on the floor. Number 2, under your tuchus, you want a zafu, which is a disc-like cushion full of buckwheat. Once again, you can get this on Amazon. I don't sell these. I don't sell anything. Everything I do is free because I am an idiot. Yo soy idiot. Okay. I find you can trust someone much more when they don't profit from the advice they give you. Okay, let's go. So now we know how to sit. Well, I guess another thing. So sit however you can in the most comfortable way. If you're going to sit cross-legged, the key is don't force your knees to act like ball joints. They're just hinges. It's your hips that are ball joints. So set space to be able to sit in a more relaxed, sustainable way. I sit with my shins parallel. That's called the quarter lotus position. It really works for me. The lotus position doesn't work for me. So now that you know the nitty-gritty of sitting pretty, ha ha ha. Okay, so you don't want to sit like a rounded back guy. You don't want to sit like you're going to do Kempo karate. That's just nonsense. You want your head to sit tall. You want your shoulder blades to be open. There you go. Now I'm going to tap button 9 and bring you back to the practice. Okay, for our preliminary, for our warm-up, as you breathe in, you can silently and mentally recite distend gut, and as you exhale, you can silently and mentally recite relax gut. This is just for a short while, it isn't for the rest of your life. So we have 2 lungs, right? Left and right. But let's pretend we have a third lung. Let's pretend that third lung is above our pelvis but below our navel. If we wanted to be fancy, we could call it a lower cauldron or lower dantian. Or you could call it a hara if you fancy Japanese. Doesn't matter what you can call it. You can call it Susie if you want to. So let's rest our hands in our lap, palms up, and play with this for let's play with it for a few minutes. Every breath in is an opportunity to sit tall. Every breath out is an opportunity to relax. Fabulous. Now we can play with the 4 contemplations that I mentioned earlier. So I use the phrase proto-Zen, which may sound like the proto-molecule from the wonderful science fiction series The Expanse. See, in contemporary Zen, the two most popular schools have the opposite opinion about contemplations. One school uses 0 contemplations, and the other school uses really elite cryptic contemplations. But there's this text called Outline of Practice, and it's attributed to an Indian named Bodhidharma, who they say is largely responsible for bringing Indian Mahamudra-style meditation and making it popular in China. Fabulous. In this text, it mentions contemplations. So I found the most efficient way of applying contemplations is just like the most efficient way of taking an intravenous drug is through a hypodermic needle. Similarly, the most efficient way of psychically downloading or uploading a contemplation is in the form of a rhetorical question. So during our inhalation, still breathing from the lower gut, let's silently and mentally recite, "How could this?" And during our exhalation, let's recite the second half of the rhetorical question, "Be quite just." Now, the purpose of these 4 contemplations is not to reveal profound metaphysical secrets. It's just to help us get better at letting go. The first contemplation helps us to let go of our habit of feeling like an angry victim. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't been angry victims. It doesn't mean that we have not been legitimately victimized by individuals and circumstances 100% out of our control. But if we could play with the idea that maybe what happened could have been just, as insulting as that is, it can take the edge off of our sense of angry victimhood. Now, am I saying that a little kid who's molested had it coming? Oh, hell no. But as an adult who was formerly a molested child, I can tell you that merely playing with the possibility that I could be the author of the causes of my own misfortune, whether it is accurate or inaccurate, makes it easier to let go of my past traumas even a little bit. There are some people who, when their romantic partner breaks up with them, regardless of how polite and gentle they did it, they act as if they are a victim of a crime against humanity. Instead of striving to learn from what mistakes they made to drive that partner away, or just exploring the ways that they were incompatible so they could do a better job of selecting a future partner, they rage against the machine. This is more effective. So let's play with this right now for just a few breaths. I don't know about you, but forget about childhood. As an adult, I've made a wealth of mistakes. And part of me is just hardwired to be defensive and exhausts myself, painting myself as the misunderstood victim of every misfortune. And to interrupt that pattern and say, well, maybe that one time I did kind of have it coming. Believe it or not, as hard as that is to take for our pride, letting go really lightens our load. A second way we can let go is of our controlling tendencies. So previously we were rigidly holding on to story. Other things we do is we rigidly are just in general to our controlling tendencies to make it happen. That's the big lie of America. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Forget the fact that is impossible by the laws of physics and just do it. Like Palpatine. Do it. This contemplation helps to antidote that. How striving increase stress. Instead of making things happen, we let them happen. That is the wisdom of the Tao. Our third rhetorical question, and I call them rhetorical questions because we're not actively striving to answer the questions. The power of these questions comes not from their answering, but from their asking. So we explored letting go of our rigid tales of victimhood. We explored letting go of our tendencies to strive to make things happen. Now we're going to let go of the labels that we put all over ourselves. How could this not be me? And now our fourth and final contemplation will help us to let go of selfishness. How could I free all beings? Free all beings from what? Free them not from the presence of the three mental poisons of hating, craving, and clinging, but save them from the tyranny of those three mental poisons. And no, not in the obnoxious knock on someone's door on a Saturday morning sort of way, but in the metaphysical way of becoming the person that our dogs already think we are. It is inferred in the vows of Samantabhaddhara Bodhisattva that simply by practicing the Eightfold Path liberates all beings around us effortlessly. Flowing from centered spontaneity, we plant seeds without even knowing it, free from contrivance and agenda. So now we're ready to meditate. We have, when our brains feel active, we can contemplate. We can play with these four things that we now have some familiarity with. When our brains feel mellow, as we breathe in, we can watch the play of mind as we silently and mentally recite, "Notice this," during our inhalation. And as we exhale, we can relax into mind's non-graspable nature as easily as silently and mentally reciting relaxing during each exhalation. So when your mind feels mellow, meditate. When your mind feels creative, contemplate. Whoopsie. If you've just joined me, welcome aboard. When you feel you have questions about Buddhist meditation or philosophy or chanting, there is no need to be bashful. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Don't be shy. When you have a question, type it in the chat window. let us seal our practice with 4 chants. Let us train now in wishing love, beginning with universal liberation. May I, like the Buddha, master the Eightfold Path as well as liberate others. We turn our attention now to kind ethics. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. Let us turn now to auspicious rebirth. May each being take auspicious rebirth, master the Buddha's path, and then help all others do likewise. Let us conclude with the 4 immeasurables. May everyone be free from stress, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, please type something in the chat window. Give this live stream a thumbs up and share it on social media. In approximately 10 1/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.